museum, first of all? We talked about how many visitors come here every year.
Well, this museum, the John F. Kennedy Hyannis Museum, has been here now 27 years, and we're the third major private visitor attraction with over 70,000 the last 3 years. And what's important in that is that 20% of that number are international visitors. So this is an important part of the Massachusetts tourism part to be here, because many people associate Cape Cod with the Kennedys and Kennedy with Cape Cod, and that's kind of why this is here. I think the other is that, clearly this was the home and remains the home of the Kennedy family. The descendants of Joe and Rose who are here still do what they did back, 60 years ago when they came here. And it's a real honor on our part to be this ambassador of the legacy of John F. Kennedy and the Kennedy family.
And tell us about this special exhibit you have here.
John Jr. certainly was well associated with Cape Cod. There's many pictures of him as he was working with his dad and mom when they were elected the president. And a lot of people saw the John, and they call him John to some of the press, but John Jr. active around the Cape. And more importantly, they come here today even to be together, and it's a place where they all do the family gatherings. They sail, they swim, they play golf, they eat around like local people would eat in restaurants. But more importantly, it's a time when they get together as family, and that continues to this very day. So the museum for John Jr. really is trying to portray the life of John Jr. The lens is really kind of two chapters. One of this young 2 to 3 year old son of the president in the Hyannis or in the White House or on the grounds, and the other of a young man who married Carolyn Brissett and started a life. He started his own life in New York with the magazine of George, which was well associated with his really starting to get into a political arena, which he had started to avoid when he started off in the Attorney General's or the District Attorney's office in New York. But it's a great way to celebrate him, one from the family side when you see the images, and two from the real sense of person of who he was as he was speaking and how he was in New York City, a very much part of the photo ops that the press was looking for, it being in the limelight. But he kept his life private, he kept his time personal, and I think he did that, which is how he was brought up by his mother and father, to be just a good member of the family.
And now, will this be a permanent part of the museum, or is it just a temporary because of the anniversary, or?
It will be a temporary for this year, and we had this video put together, and it's really well done and shows this emotional side of John Jr. that people have really liked today. And I think it's to celebrate his life. As we go along on some of the changes of the museum, we'll always have images of John Jr. We might do a craft of this as one part of an exhibit that will open up a year from now. But it's important to know that many of the images that we have are not in the public domain. So this is a very, people will see pictures that they haven't seen before. They'll see some of the stories and the context that they weren't as intimate with.
And where'd you get the not seen before pictures from? There's a lot of really good stuff here.
Well, some are in like firms like the Getty that have a lot of photos that they represent. Some are with the actual estates of or the photographers, and some are with the JFK Library. And some of these images, though, also required the approval of Caroline Kennedy, so that there was another level of kind of screening of some of the images around John Jr., her brother.
And you guys reached out to Caroline?
Yes, we did.
Wow. And so if someone wants to come down and see this, how long do they have to see the exhibit?
Well, we'll be probably in place through the end of the year, and we're open 7 days a week, 9 to 5. And for the most part, we've got the two other major exhibits, so it's a great overall look at the Kennedy family and kind of the connection with Cape Cod and the history of the family. So I think you get this personal side, but also you really get some of the legacy side, which I think is also conveyed in this exhibit. We wanted it, that he was a person who really at the point with George, had a purpose that he was very set on, as he was when he became part of the district attorney's office. So he had a great life. He had his family. He had a lady in his life that they were a great couple. And some of the images here, I think, show that. And more importantly, he represented, what was an important hope to many people who come into this exhibit, what he could have been.
And so one of my last questions is, I know you weren't here. Were you here 20 years ago?
No.
When it happened? You weren't here, but a lot of people in the community are lifelong residents.
Right.
What do you hear maybe about that night or that week and maybe the impact it had on the community?
It was staggering. This museum, over the 4 or 5 days of the search that was going on, and the media was here from all over the world. In fact, the curator of the museum, Rebecca Pierce-Merritt, was basically one of the reporters to Europe and the U.S. on some of the details that were going on. But this was like a place where people could come and remember John Jr. So we had nearly 12,000 to 14,000 people here over 4 days. So, and people who lived here knew he loved to be local. He would pop into the museum and visit and never tell the employee that when he purchased his ticket that he was John Jr. And he would bring people here. So he wanted to be local, and he would swim, he would go to restaurants, they would go to stores, as anyone would on the Cape. But it was very personal, and people in Hyannis remember this day. It was an emotional day, a week. The press, we had the local press here that was really a cornerstone. So it had its mark, for sure.
Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you feel people need to know or that I missed?
Well, I feel what I've seen, Courtney, in being here during the last 7 years, but particularly this last month, there's an important inspiration, there's message, there's kind of a sense of recalling a time or an evidence of what he represented that inspired them. They felt really like he was mattering in their life. And we feel good because this did resonate, and it was done in a way that it celebrates John Jr. in a way that we usually couldn't have done.